Morning, everyone. Mhm. 2 years ago, my right arm, I have a very serious nervous pain inside my arm, kind of a pinch, the shooting pain. And I went to the chiropractor and the physical therapist. They said it's because of my posture. I usually sleep on the side, always, and my right shoulder was pressed. It's not in the right place. That's why it caused nervous pain. So according to their recommendation, and after I changed my posture, the pain disappeared. So within 3 months. It may be the same that the mental or emotional suffering we experience in our life. Just like this shoulder was not in the right place, something might be wrong in my mind, in our life. They may cause the suffering in our life. Specifically, what might be wrong? When you go to the New York City here, you can use a 95 or you can use the Taconic Highway. But it's up to you. But you are not supposed to drive to the Catskill Mountain and so on. So in order to free from suffering, there is some basic things, some fundamental things in our life. So that's so-called, the Buddha said, observing the precepts, moral code of conduct, do not kill, do not steal, do not commit sexual misconduct, do not use harsh speech, and so on. Initiation ceremony in Buddhism is called Sugeshik, Suge ceremony. Suge literally means precepts receiving ceremony. It's a very fundamental thing. When Buddha was on the deathbed, a lot of his students were very sad. And so whenever they have some question, they could directly ask the Buddha. So a monastic asked to the Shakyamuni Buddha, when you passed away, who would become our teacher? Then Buddha said, precepts will become your teacher. Judaism started by what? By Moses receiving 10 commandments. Whether it's Christianity, Muslim, it all originate from the Judaism. So precepts is not some commandment from higher beings. It's items of mindfulness. It's a voluntary undertaking by ourselves, because we practitioners know the karmic principle of cause and effect. Buddha said, even though you deny all things, all my teachings, you better believe the karmic principle of cause and effect. If you steal, your things will be stolen. If you hurt others, you will be hurt. It's that simple. They say meditation is the mind of the Buddha. The scripture is the words of the Buddha. And precepts are the actions of the Buddha. If we observe the precepts, we will be like the Buddha. free from all suffering and distress. The first thing, abstain from taking the life of sentient beings. It's not just a killing, it's some violence, hurting others by our words, actions, and so on. King David really would like to build the temple of God. He thought the Ark of Covenant that Moses received was in the tent. So in order to enshrine the Ark of a Covenant, he really would like to build God. When he offered the prayer and consulted with the prophet Nathan, so he was not allowed to build the temple. Why? So God said his hands are with the blood. As army general in all the days and as a king during his reign, he had hurt and killed a lot of people, even for a good purpose. Our founding master said, Sesan is one of the, maybe the greatest Buddhist master in Korea. And Sesan's foremost, best student, his disciple was Samyeongdang, and the Samyeongdang is more well known as he worked in the 16th century when the Japanese army invaded Korea. He worked for a period of time as an army general. By far, he's the best student, greatly realized master. But Master Sesan did not transmit his Dharma lineage to Samyeongdang. Why? Zen master Pengyang Sensa received the Dharma lamp from his teacher. It is because if Samyeongdang received the Dharma lineage, because his karmic action, the lifespan of his lineage will be shortened. Would you read the verse 6 and 8?
But here some woman or man, having abandoned the killing of living beings, abstains from killing living beings, lays aside the rod and lays aside the knife, is considerate and merciful, and dwells compassionate for the welfare of all living beings. Due to having performed and completed such karmas, on the dissolution of the body after death, he or she reappears in a happy destination in the heavenly world. If on the dissolution of the body after death, instead of his or her reappearing in a happy destination in the heavenly world, he or she comes to the human state, they are long-lived wherever they are reborn. This is the way that leads to long life, that is to say, to have abandoned the killing of living beings, to abstain from killing living beings, to lay aside the rod and lay aside the knife, to be considerate and merciful, and to dwell compassionate for the welfare of all living beings. And 8. But here some woman or man is not one who harms beings with his hands or with rods or with sticks or with knives. Due to having performed and completed such karmas on the dissolution of the body after death, he or she reappears in a happy destination. If instead he comes to the human state, he is healthy wherever he is reborn, or she. This is the way that leads to health, that is to say, not to be one who harms beings with his or her hands, or with rods, or with sticks, or with knives.
Okay, thank you. The second item, abstain from taking possessions of anything that's not given by its owner. Do not steal. The second item. Do you know why so many people in Asia, people in America, people in the past, or living in the contemporary style, loves gambling, or many people buy lottery. They may enjoy the thrill, excitement of that, but deep in their mind, there is this kind of a thought or mindset, working a minimum hour, but would like to expect a lot, consciously or unconsciously. We have a certain the kind of a mindset. We have to understand, we exactly reap what we planted. As much as we sweat, we harvest the crops. That's why, according to the statistic, 95 of the people who won the lottery, billions of dollars all of a sudden, they came to ruin their life. It's not their money. When I was, my first workplace was a Soul Meditation Center. In order to join the Sunday service, I went to the nearby Wonnam Temple, one of the biggest temple in Korea, in Seoul. It's a big temple, so they hire sometimes on Sunday service some cook from the local area. And sometimes after a big ceremony, there are a lot of gift or food left over. And the hired cook was a very sensitive person. She was very poor. But if she asked for those food or gift, then the head minister, who was very compassionate person, would like to really willing to give all those things. But she took those things without telling anybody. But it's hard to hire some cook in those days. So she discovered her financial situation is getting worse and worse. Verse 4, Kathy, would you read verse 14?
One of the disciples who lived close to headquarters often took trivial things to his private home from the headquarters. The founding teacher warned him, saying, "Although we can afford to share with you some things, such as a few pieces of firewood or a few nails, it is not fair for you to take them for personal use because they were given to the order by the public for the order's use. If you keep doing, some unexpected negative consequences may be brought to you in the future, causing you to suffer losses greater than the amount you took. Therefore, I am giving you this warning in advance."
Thank you. As a practitioner, we practitioners who know the truth, we should actively carry out, perform the dana practice. One of the benefactors of this retreat center are Samsung family, because they are rich. Their family is the very rich person. Because of their donation, and we could build this retreat center. And not just the retreat center. Jungdo Retreat Center is the retreat center for minister. The more the family donated something, the more they made money. So it's not for expecting something, but that's why they come to believe the Buddha's teaching and they become very generous. Our second head Dharma master used this analogy. You see, in our garden, we plant a lot of garlic. When you plant one garlic, that one garlic is transformed one garlic bulb. Do you know how many garlics are inside in one bulb? Usually 8 or 10. So dana practice, helping others financially, mentally, spiritually, is exactly like that. It's not that super spiritual principle. For example, in order to practice the English, when I worked at the one institute, I bought one big TV screen, and English caption, the subtitle helped me a lot to follow what they are talking about. But after I started to use my laptop, I don't need that big screen anymore. So I gave that to the Richmond Temple. She used that for the children's service. So it's far more creatively, productively used. So the blessing is far more greater. Yeah. Especially when you help the people grow who is spiritually progressing a lot, the group of practitioners, or the group of people who make a big contribution for this society, the merit would be really far greater. The third, the precepts, abstain from sexual misconduct. Buddha said, if human beings, it's lucky that human beings have just one sexual organ. Buddha said, if human beings have 2 sexual organs, there would be not a person who could attain Buddhahood. We know a lot of famous TV evangelists. What caused their downfall? Sometimes because of the financial things. Most of the time it's sexual misconduct. Buddha said, people cling to their worldly possessions and the sexual passions so blindly as to sacrifice their own lives. They are like a child who tries to eat a little honey smeared on the edge of a knife. Even though the amount is not enough to appease his appetite, he will lick it and risk cutting his tongue in the process. The fourth item, abstain from unwholesome speech. Unwholesome speech can include lying or evil speech, double-tongued speech, abusive speech, and so on. There is a Chinese saying, our mouth is the gateway of all calamity or disaster. But our second head Dharma master said it's wrong. The mouth is the gate of calamity. At the same time, it is our words. This mouth is the gateway of all blessing. It depends on how we use our speech. Buddha likened the human tongue to be an axe. It can hurt others or it can be used for a greater purpose. The Huang Changyang is a Catholic priest who is very popular and respected priest in Korea. And he told his story. I saw that from the YouTube video clip. After his ordination, his first workplace was Pyeongchang Church. The Pyeongchang is a very small city located in the rural area. And as a young priest, he was in charge of the children's service. And after service, he usually played with those children. One day, to young little child, he said this word, well, you have a very beautiful hand, long, thin fingers. I think if you become a surgeon, your hand will save a lot of people. It was not that serious. He usually say very encouraging words to those children. 20, 30 years later, when he gave some lecture in some church in Los Angeles, one young man approached to him and said, the Reverend, do you remember me? Of course, he could not remember that. I'm that person. You told me your hand will save a lot of people. And his parents moved to United USA. As an immigrant, they have a very hard life. They got divorced after his father's business got bankrupt, and his brother started to use a drug. But when he had a very challenging situation, he looked at his hands and always remembered what the Catholic priest told. This beautiful hand will save a lot of people. He said right now he's the surgeon at the UCLA medical school. And they say our words are self-fulfilling prophecy, whether it's a good word or bad word, especially the word that said to the children, the ripple effect is great. So we chant Namami Tabo, return to the Buddha, or Ilwan Sang vow. When you chant that, seriously or not serious, it's embedded in our mind and heart. And it will bear fruit someday. Abstain from intoxicants. They say they are addicted by alcohol or drugs, sex, and so on. But actually, what they are addicted is the sensation of the drug, the sensation of the alcohol. So Buddha said, we are all addicted by our sensory experience, by what we see, by what we hear, by what we touch, and so on. When I work at the Philadelphia Temple member, some of the member comes from the local AA group. When they regularly attend they had the Tuesday night meditation class and the Saturday morning. When they regularly attend the class, and then when they purify their mind, strengthen their mind, it became very, very natural. They become free from all those addictions. Yeah. So I discovered one of the best way for be away from addiction, all kind of addiction, is let them help to join some retreat, meditation class. It's one of the, if it's not that serious. Yeah. Precepts, Ge, it's the Chinese character. It looks like a door bolt. Ge is locked door bolt. If there is a thief in your house, so you cannot stay in your living room comfortably. Likewise, precepts are the way let the unwholesome things enter our mind, enter our life. our second-head Dharma master said, precepts are the life of a practitioner and the ladder to attain Buddhahood. Hence, you ought to observe precepts without fail, reflecting on the original vow. If you feel negligent due to the foolish demands of the mind and body, it's just like the protecting ourselves, protecting our life. When a fetus inside mother's womb, it's not to restrict themselves, bind themselves. It's for protection from outside environment. So precepts are one of the basic things to protect ourselves from unwholesome things. So let me finish my word by reciting our founding master's word. True freedom is attained by refraining from self-indulgence. Great benefit is attained by ridding oneself of selfish desires. Therefore, one who seeks true freedom must first keep the precepts well. One who seeks great benefit must first foster a public spirit. Thank you.